Addressing the National Media and Current Challenges workshop, the Information Minister brands the aggression against Syria as being Zionist American, aimed at undermining the state and the homeland. Moscow affirms its principled stand towards Syria and that it cannot be silent over the absence of international justice. Hundreds of thousands of Americans are without pay, and Obama calls off his visit to Malaysia and the Philippines after the failure of reaching an agreement over the budget. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our news for today. Minister of Information Amran al-Zuabi said that Syria is in a state of open confrontation with terrorism funded by regional and international sides. Minister of Information Amran al-Zuabi stressed that Syria is not witnessing a civil war or a religious or sectarian conflict, adding that the country is facing a U.S. Zionist aggression that aims at undermining the Syrian state. Minister al-Zuabi said that the characteristic of a civil war does not apply to the situation in Syria, adding that the scheme against Syria was set in 2006 after the Lebanese resistance defeated Israel, as Syria was considered a partner in the victory of the resistance. He added that after the 2006 war, a decision was taken to destroy the Syrian state long before the so-called Arab Spring took place in many of the Arab countries. The National Media and the Current Challenges workshop continued activities today in Damascus with the participation of journalists and analysts from Iran, Egypt, Jordan and Lebanon. Today's first session of the three-day workshop, which kicked off yesterday, tackled the role of media in confronting extremism and Takfiri mentality. The participants also discussed the role of media in building the national character and the issue of the Syrian media and the hostile media before, during and after the crisis in the country. Speaker of the Russian Duma Council, Sergei Naryshkin, has reiterated his country's stand in support of a peaceful settlement to the crisis in Syria. He said his country used the veto at the Security Council 3 times because it couldn't be silent over the absence of justice. Addressing a session of the Parliamentary Society of Europe's Council held in the French city of Strasbourg, Naryshkin said, since the beginning, Russia has defended a very difficult peaceful settlement to the crisis in Syria and has always considered that the possibility of a peaceful solution to any crisis is never exhausted, despite the presence of voices which call for resorting to non-diplomatic ways and encourage a military strike against an independent country, an approach that Russia does not approve. Naryshkin said his country has always insisted on holding an international conference to solve the crisis in Syria in the presence of the authorities and the opposition's representatives. The Russian official added that the possibility of a peaceful settlement to the crisis is confirmed by the Russian initiative on chemical weapons in Syria, underlining the importance of activating such initiative. Cuba reiterated its call for finding a political solution to the crisis in Syria through diplomatic means and dialogue without foreign threats. In a speech delivered at the 192nd session of the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization Executive Council, Cuba's representative to the UNESCO, Juan Antonio Fernandez, said that preventing an attack against Syria so that peace could prevail is the international community's most urgent priority for now. Fernandez added that the Middle East is bleeding due to wars and conflicts that are stirred by the imperialism's interference and interests, calling for respecting the right to self-determination of the Syrian people. Welcome back. Syrian Arab Army chased terrorist group in Rima farms in Damascus countryside and eliminated 30 terrorists and destroyed a vehicle carrying a missile launcher. The army also destroyed and killed terrorist gathering of Daesh terrorists in An-Nabak town. An army unit attacked a terrorist den near Assin Lake in Damascus countryside, killing and wounding the majority of them and destroying RPG launchers and ammunition. In An-Nabak in Damascus countryside, the Syrian Arab Army confiscated a pickup car carrying a heavy machine gun and huge amounts of weapons and ammunition. The army killed dozens of terrorists who belong to so-called Islamic State of Iraq and Sham in Damascus countryside. Syrian Arab Army units have destroyed a terrorist warehouse that contained large quantities of weapons and ammunition in the village of Al-Samhalil in Al-Hule and killed and wounded a large number of armed men in the towns and villages of Homs. Terrorist gatherings were eliminated near Al-Bir Hospital in Al-Wa'ar, Al-Qarabis, Al-Qusur and Bab Houd neighborhoods and the surroundings of As-Salam Mosque in the city of Homs. Other army units killed and wounded terrorists east of the cement factory and south of Halime As-Saadiyya school in Al-Rastan, as well as in villages in Homs' eastern suburbs. An army unit also clashed with terrorists who tried to attack an army barricade in Al-Barda'iyat near Az-Zara village in Talkalakh countryside, killing all of them. Meanwhile, several missile shells launched by terrorists fell today on Tal Jadid and Al-Mishraf villages, causing material damage to properties. No casualties were reported. In Homs suburbs, 2 citizens were killed yesterday near the patriarchal Al-Husn hospital in Al-Ahwash village. An official source said the terrorists had infiltrated yesterday evening from Al-Husn village via adjacent farms towards the hospital and opened fire at the inhabitants and passengers, immediately killing the 2 citizens. In Aleppo, the army eliminated 6 terrorists who had tried to have access to secure areas in the city's outskirts from Al-Mansoura village. The army also killed the members of an armed terrorist gang after foiling their attempt to enter the ancient part of the city from the direction of Al-Madrasa Al-Shari'iyya school. U.S. President Barack Obama has postponed visits to Malaysia and the Philippines due to the first federal government shutdown in 17 years. National Security Council spokeswoman Caitlin Hayden said that logistically it was not possible to go ahead with these trips in the face of a government shutdown. House Republicans are currently trying to reopen popular parts of the government by offering money to fund entities such as national parks, but the Democrats are comparing that to a release of one hostage at a time, insisting the full government be funded rather than doing it one piece at a time. Republicans held late-night votes in the House of Representatives in the early hours this morning to reaffirm their demands that the Democratic Senate agree to undermine President Obama's health care law in exchange for funding the government. Democrats rejected the House bill, saying they will only pass a bill to fund the government with no strings attached. With this, we end our news for today. Thank you for watching. For more details about Syria and the region and to view this bulletin again, you can always visit our website in English, syriaonline.sy. Now to latest business and market news with Vani Genjan, but after a short break.